R1, R2, R3. 12.1, 12.2, 23.1 and 23.2. F0 by 0, F0 by 1, sorry, F0 by 0 also. And this will be F0 by 0. Done. So now this will be my core router for today. So I'm going to focus on R2 only, not on R1, not on R3. So this will be my core router right now for today's class. Core router in the sense my focus is only on R2. So whatever the configuration I'm going to perform on R2. I'm not going to configure anything on R1 and R3. Now I'm going to talk about login local concept. In login local is going to ask for what? A username and password. So for that I have to say line VTY 0 to 4 login local. Now whenever someone is going to telnet from R1 or R3, he is going to ask what? A username and password. Now I want to implement a security. The security is going to say that if someone is trying to perform any kind of DOS attack, on router. So if someone is trying to perform any kind of DOS attack on the router by using the concept of telnet, by using telnet protocol. Let's talk about this keyword, telnet protocol. DOS attack, denial of service. How it is going to perform? So more like this thing, that suppose this is my ISP and this is my ISP router somewhere, and this is my edge router. Someone is sending thousands and thousands of telnet packet, or maybe someone is doing dictionary attack, that is hitting on the IP address. The router is asking, please tell me the username and password. He is typing Cisco, wrong password. Okay, he said let's try again, let's type ABC. Let's try again, XYZ. So he's trying to guess the password. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a policy. The policy is going to say that if a user is going to fail 2 attempts, if a user is going to fail 2 attempts within 15 seconds, if a user is going to be failed 2 times, means he is going to enter wrong username and password 2 times within how many seconds? 15 seconds. I want to block the connection, or I'm going to say I want to block the access for next 30 seconds. See, I'm creating a policy. The policy is going to say that if someone is taking the access of the router, I don't have any issues. But if he is going to type the wrong username and password within 15 seconds, and the failed attempt is what? 2 failed attempts within 15 seconds. So I'm going to create a policy that the access of this device will be stopped for the next 30 seconds. अगले 30 सेकंड तक इस डिवाइस को कोई भी एक्सेस नहीं कर पाएगा. That if someone is hitting on this router, this means कि कोई अटैक कर रहा है, someone is hitting on the router by typing the wrong username and password. So I'm going to block the CLI connection, CLI plus GUI. आप CLI कैसे ले सकते हो? By telnet or by SSH, and GUI can be taken through HTTP. So I'm going to create a policy. The policy is going to say that if I have 2 failed attempts within how many seconds? 15 seconds. I'm going to block the CLI plus GUI access for the next 30 seconds. So I'm going to go to router and I'm going to say, I'm going to type the command login block for. I want to block the CLI and the GUI access for how many seconds? 30 seconds. And if I have attempts, how many attempts? Within 15 seconds. So whatever the parameter I'm going to configure, it will be always in seconds. So whatever I'm going to configure, it will always in seconds. आप minutes में configure नहीं कर सकते. So I'm saying here block for 30 seconds if I have failed attempts of 2 within 15 seconds. Command exactly ऐसी ही होगी. 90% this thing is और कुछ होगा. But this will be my policy. Are you getting my point? What I'm doing? I have to make sure if someone is hitting on the router with the wrong username and password, I want to protect the router. So first let's make this topology before going further. I think everybody is aware about the topology. R1, R2, R3, 0, 0, 0 by 1, 0, 12.1, 12.2, 23.1 and 23.2. So R1, R2, and R3. Done. So R3 can ping my R2, 23.1, right? Yes, and R1 can also ping R2, ping 12.2. Done. So we have a reachability. So to enable a username and password, I'm going to say line VTY 024 login local, right? So now whenever someone is going to telnet 23.1, he's going to ask for a username and password. I can type wrong username and password, it's up to me. He's going to ask again. So I'm going to configure a policy here, login block 4 for how many seconds? I want to block the CLI access plus GUI access for the next 30 seconds. If I have attempts to within 15 seconds. Point number 1, when you will go for your CCI lab, you will get a section of layer 3 security. Okay, when you will go for the lab, you will get a section of layer 3 security. In each and every lab, they are going to give you the username and the password for each and every device. Okay, they are going to give you the username and the password for each and every device. So more like you will get some kind of topology, something like this. कोई भी lab देख लो. So you will get a topology something like this. So whenever you are going to click any of the router, you will get the CLI access and it's going to ask you a username and password to log in that router. maybe a enable password, maybe a username, whatever. So your first task is to relax yourself and type the right username and password. Why? What if they are going to implement this kind of policy for their routers, that login block for 3 hours, and you have typed the wrong username and password, and the CLI access will be gone for the next 3 hours. So you have to make sure whenever you are going to take the access of any of the router in the lab, you are going to type the right username and password in the first attempt. This thing is clear in the only in the case of layer 3 security, because this task is a part of layer 3. So whenever you will move to layer 3 security section, and whatever the routers that are specified in L3 like R1, R2, R7, whatever, you have to make sure whenever you are going to take the CLI access of that router, you are going to type the right username and the password in the first attempt. Because maybe they can configure any kind of policy that if the user is typing the wrong username and password within 30 seconds and the attempts are 1 or 2, block the CLI access for the next 3 hours or 4 hours. So in that case you will not get the CLI access.
Sir, can we check?
You can check only when you will get the CLI. This is the point.
What is the command, sir, to check the security if there is?
Yeah, I will tell you, but I'm just in वो मैं आगे बताऊंगा कि what is the show command to verify this thing. But आप एग्जाम में कैसे चेक करोगे? Until and unless you have the CLI access. To get the CLI access, you have to type the username and the password. So they are going to put this configuration something like this thing, login block for this thing. And to verify whether this feature is enabled or not, the command is show login. From this command, you can verify whether this feature is enabled or not. And this concept is called iOS login enhancement. iOS login enhancement. Okay, let's see the feature whether it is enabled or not. Show login. If more than 2 login failure occur in 15 seconds or less, login will be disabled for 30 seconds. Let's verify this configuration. And if you are going to put show login on R1, we haven't configured anything on R1. Nothing. No, no, no. But here it is going to show you something. We will discuss about quiet mode. We will discuss about login delay. But first I want to show you this thing. If more than 2 failure occur within 15 seconds, the login will be disabled for the next 30 seconds. Telnet. First fail login. Second fail login. And now whenever you are going to take the access, the connection will be reset. And he's going to enable this thing. Let's copy this thing and let's discuss about it. Secure login. Quiet mode is on. Quiet mode means that I'm not going to entertain any kind of telnet, SSH and HTTP packet. This is called quiet mode. Quiet mode means I'm not going to entertain any kind of telnet, SSH and HTTP packet that are destined to the box. And why I'm doing this? Authentication failed. And now when you are going to take the access, your connection will be reset. Now how the packet is dropped? ऐसा क्या पॉलिसी लगा दी कि जिसकी वजह से क्या हो रहा है, मेरा पैकेट ड्रॉप? He is going to create the access list that is called self defense access list. क्या ये हमने बनाई थी? नहीं. This ACL is called self defense ACL. In this ACL, इसको भूल जाओ, this is the issue. In this ACL, he is going to deny TCP for telnet, HTTP, SSH. I can take the access through telnet, I can take the access through SSH, or I can take the GUI. So all these features will be disabled for the next 30 seconds. This thing is clear? Show login. Now you can access it because 30 seconds are finished. And now if you are going to type again wrong username and password, your connection will be reset. Even the internal user cannot access it. Telnet 12.1.2. Now this is the problem. The problem is this thing. Someone is attacking from my outside network. The problem is this thing, that someone is attacking from my outside network. Wrong username and password. So what router is doing? He's going to block himself for the next 30 seconds. And how is doing this thing? By using the concept of self-defense ACL. Inside the self-defense ACL, I am blocking 23, 22 and port 80 HTTP. The problem is, what if my internal user wants to access this router? The connection will be dropped. Yes or no? What if I want to access from my internal network? The connection will be dropped. So this means it's more like a DOS attack, denial of service. क्या हो गया deny? CLI access or GUI. The attack is successful. हम तो कुछ और बचाने चले थे, उसके बदले में हमने कुछ और बखेड़ा खड़ा कर दिया. The problem is, if he is hitting the wrong username and password, he is blocking himself for the next 30 seconds. And now, when this administrator wants to access, the packet will be what? Dropped. And you can see this thing. When R1 wants to access my R2, the connection will be reset. And then again, when the quiet mode will be off, again he is going to type the wrong username and password. Then he is going to create a ACL again. And now, again, from the internal user, he cannot access the router. So this is the problem that we were facing. So for that thing, they have introduced the concept of access list. Quiet mode access list. Which traffic you want to allow when the router is in quiet mode? Quiet mode means what? I am going to drop the packets of telnet. Plus, देखो क्या हो गया? Quiet mode off हो गया because 30 seconds are finished. The 30 seconds are finished. Now my quiet mode is what? Off. So now I have a quiet mode access list that is going to allow those IP addresses that will be denied due to quiet mode. कुछ आपकी IP थी जो drop हो रही थी, that R2 is hitting on wrong username and password, he is blocking himself for the next 30 seconds. And now this user wants to access, that connection is also what? Dropped. But I can create an exception. I can create a exception. The exception is something like this. Even though you are in the quiet mode, this is my R2, even though you are in quiet mode, I want to allow the IP address from 12.1.1.1. You don't need to block this IP address. Even you are in quiet mode on or you are in quiet mode off, because that is my internal network IP address. This point is clear why we are doing this thing. We were doing this thing, why? Because during the self-defense ACL, he is going to block any source IP. either it is coming from R3 or it is coming from R1. It doesn't matter to him. But I want to allow for R1, not for R3, but I want to allow for R1. So I'm going to create a access list. So I'm going to say IP access list login quiet mode access class, and here you can define standard plus you can define extended. Let's go one by one. First let's define standard ACL and then let's define extended ACL. IP access list standard 10 permit host क्या IP दूँ 12.1.1. I want to allow this IP address even you are in which mode? Quiet mode. Login quiet mode access class 10. Do show history. This is my configuration. So first I have create a policy. Then I have created a exception. And then I call this exception in this thing. That even though you are in quiet mode, don't block this IP addresses. This means 12.1.1. So I have configured only two commands, command 1, command 2. Then to verify our configuration, let's go this thing, show login. And quiet mode has what? Access list 10. So this means there is a what? Exception. Telnet, let's define the wrong username and password. Connection is what? Refuse. Let's go with R1. I can access. So this means he has created what? A exception. And I can verify this thing by show IP access list. I'm getting what? Hit count. This thing is clear? You can ask any doubt up to this point regarding this configuration. Do show history. Like what is the scope of this command? Quiet mode क्या हो गया अब? Off 30 seconds हो गए. What is the scope of this command or what is the scope of this command? Now what we can do is, what if the user is typing wrong username and password again and again and again and again? We can slow down the attack. Next we will talk about slow down the attack. That the user is hitting on the IP address 12.1.1.1. See, right now we have a NB router, network bus router, edge router. Right? What if the attacker find out the IP address of that router? Easy है find out करना. 2 मिनट लगेंगे, ठीक है. Now we are hitting telnet and the IP address of the NB router. Maybe it is 116.1.1.1. You are going to do this. He is going to ask a username and password. He is going to type Cisco, wrong username and password. Okay, let me try again. Username Cisco 123, password Cisco 123. Wrong username and password. Again. Even we can slow down this attack. How? The concept we are going to use is, you hit telnet 116.1.1.1. He's going to ask you what? Username and password. right? If you are going to type the wrong username and the password, I can increase the delay in between the next username. Maybe I can say if the user is going to type wrong username and password, create a delay for 5 seconds before you are going to give him the next username option. So when he's going to type this wrong password, I can provide a delay for the next 5 seconds. By default it is 1 second. By default कितना होता है 1 second. कैसे? Show login. A default login delay of 1 second is applied. Are you getting my point? Which type of delay I'm talking? After typing the wrong username and the password, I am going to provide a small delay of 5 seconds before prompting him the next username and password. Let's configure this 5 seconds. Login delay. मैंने कितना दे दिया? 5. ठीक है? Telnet username Cisco 123, and now he will give me 5 seconds of delay. Then only he is going to give me the next username option. Again, if I am going to type something, अब तो block हो जाएगा. Let's start with this thing. And now he is going to give me a pause of 5 seconds. समझ आया आपको? Delay ये. That is called login delay. The next keyword what I'm going to talk is to generate messages. Login. ये हमने देख लिया block for कितने seconds and all that. Block for 30 seconds if attempts are failed, that much, right? Delay हमने देख लिया. Login delay 5. If the username and the password is incorrect, I want to provide a delay of 5 seconds before giving him the next username and password. On failure, generate a log messages. Every time when the user is going to type a wrong username and password, generate a log message so that I can find out what क्या username था और क्या IP address थी. So login, on failure, generate a log message. For example, a message is generated. User, this was the username that I have typed something like this. Source IP 12.1.1. That user was coming with the IP address of 12.1.1. Local port is hitting on my port 23. Why I am generating this log message? Because login authentication failed. Why? Because it was a bad user. Means the username, the password is not correct. And this is the time. Let's create a username and password. Username Cisco, password Cisco. Now you can say login. On success, also generate a log message. So that I can keep track कि कौन user ने login किया, कितने बजे login किया था, what was his IP address and all that. So login, on success, log. Username Cisco, password is Cisco. इस बार किसके लिए दिखा लॉग इन सक्सेस. यूजर नेम Cisco, he was coming with this IP address and he's hitting on my port 23. दो पोर्ट्स हो रहे हैं, या तो 22 हो सकता है या क्या हो सकता है पोर्ट 80. क्वाइट मोड ACL हमने लगा के देख ली टू बाईपास द रूल कि इफ माई क्वाइट मोड इज ऑन I want to make sure still 12.1.1 can access my router. Yes or no? Any doubt in any of the command? Login block for I want to block my CLI access plus GUI for the next 30 seconds. If attempts are 3 within 15 seconds to जो भी आपका मन करे.
सर ये ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि टाइम इंक्रीज होता रहे. एनीथिंग लाइक
ना
यू आर अटेम्प्टिंग सो टाइम लाइक आवर सेल फोन.
ठीक है. The next thing is login delay. After typing the wrong username and password, I want to provide a delay of 5 seconds before prompting him the next username and password. To generate a log message on failure, to generate a log message on success. And the quiet mode is to bypass. आपके कोई डाउट है तो आप इसमें से पूछ सकते हो. In the case of quiet mode, what I am going to do is R2, R1, R3. I am going to enable the feature of iOS login enhancement. In iOS login enhancement, I am going to create a policy that if someone is going to type wrong username and password within 15 seconds, number of attempt is 2, so I'm going to block the CLI access for the next 30 seconds. This 30 seconds is called quiet mode. That the router is not going to listen for any kind of telnet packet, SSH and HTTP. This mode is called quiet mode. When the router is not listening for telnet, SSH and HTTP packet, that mode is called quiet mode. I can bypass it by creating a quiet mode access list. और कोई डाउट? अगर डाउट नहीं है तो फिर मैं पूछ लेता हूँ. नहीं है ना? ठीक है. Done. Let me ask you a question. हो गया. मैंने आपको एक चीज बताई थी. लॉग इन quiet mode access class. I have an option of standard and I want to create an extended ACL in which I want to allow that even the R2, I want to create an extended ACL in which I want to allow R1 to access R2 even though R2 is in what mode? Quiet mode, but only for 23. Means only for talent. Easy सा टास्क है ना? ठीक है, तो कर लेते हैं. We have to create a ACL where even though R2 is in quiet mode, I want to make sure R1 can access with the protocol of talent. तो आप मुझे बताओ क्या ACL बनेगी? 101 12.1.1 डॉट टू बाकी तो इम्प्लिसिट हो ही जाएगा डिनाई एंड आई एम गोइंग टू से लॉग इन शो लॉग इन in show login what I'm going to say is my quiet mode ACL is what 101 कौन सी ACL है 101 आप में से कितने कहते हैं कि R1 एक्सेस कर लेगा even R2 is in quiet mode any one of you who wants to agree that our configuration is correct या कौन कहता है कि कॉन्फ़िगरेशन गलत है एनी वन ऑफ यू हु इज सेइंग दिस कॉन्फ़िगरेशन इज रॉन्ग कोई है ऐसा जो कह रहा है कॉन्फ़िगरेशन गलत है क्वेश्चन यही है R1 R2 he is in quiet mode means he is not listening for telnet SSH and HTTP I have to make sure in that mode R1 can access R2 only for protocol telnet this is my configuration so कोई है आप में से जो कह रहा हो ये configuration गलत है कोई भी नहीं है ठीक है सबके जीरो लगा दूंगा आज गलत है कॉन्फ़िगरेशन आप बोलोगे हम कैसे मान ले ठीक है मतलब आप CCNA नहीं पढ़ के आए रॉन्ग यूज़र नेम अरे यार इसमें डिले भी तो है लेट्स रिमूव द डिले लॉग इन डिले ऑफ 1 सेकेंड लग गई रिफ्यूज ये तो पहले ही एक्सेस लेके बैठा था और R1 का भी कनेक्शन क्या हो गया रिफ्यूज मतलब
सर रिप्लाई के लिए नहीं बनाया
किसके लिए
किसी के
नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है
आपने पहले वाली एक्सेस लिस्ट रिमूव कर दी
हाँ भाई एक ही ACL लग सकती है तो अगर आपने 101 लगा दी तो वो वाली ओवरराइट हो जाएगी जब CCNA कर रहे थे आपको पढ़ाया गया था एक कंसेप्ट एक्सेस क्लास का इन लाइन VTY पढ़ाया था लाइन VTY में एक्सेस क्लास का तभी नील बटे सन्नाटा हो जहां पे भी आपको एक्सेस क्लास कीवर्ड दिखाई दे whenever you are going to see the keyword access class you are going to put the question mark he is going to give you option of standard plus extended even is going to say you what named there you don't need to define the destination अगर आप destination define करोगे it is not going to work this is the concept of access class the scope of access class we have two options access group and access class this is the access list access list में तो आपने एक्शन डिफाइन कर दिया drop permit IP 12.1 now it's up to you where you want to apply that access list you want to apply through access group or you want to apply through access class if you are going to use access group you can define the source you can define the destination port whatever जो आप इंटरफेस पे अप्लाई करते हो F0/0 IP access group and all that but if you are going to call your access list inside the access class you don't need to define the destination. आपकी destination हमेशा any होगी, because destination access class will be applied to the box. एक्सेस क्लास कहाँ लगती है हमेशा? टू द बॉक्स. जैसे आपके इस केस में लग रही है R2 में, टू द बॉक्स. सोर्स आईपी इज 12.1 एंड डेस्टिनेशन आईपी इज व्हाट 12.2. तो ये बोलेगा नो, दैट ट्रैफिक इज कमिंग टू मी, सो आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू वेरीफाई द डेस्टिनेशन. इफ द यूजर इज गोइंग टू स्पेसिफाई द डेस्टिनेशन इन द एक्सेस क्लास, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क विद दैट ACL. मैं उसको नज़रअंदाज कर दूंगा. आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू कंसिडर हिम एज एक्सेस लिस्ट, बिकॉज टेक्निकली द एक्सेस क्लास इज मोर लाइक ए स्टैंडर्ड एक्सेस लिस्ट. एक्सेस क्लास का मतलब हुआ स्टैंडर्ड एक्सेस लिस्ट, और स्टैंडर्ड ACL में हम सिर्फ सोर्स ही डिफाइन करते हैं. अगर आप ध्यान से देखोगे टू द बॉक्स जो भी ट्रैफिक आ रहा था, मैं स्क्रॉल किया था एक बार थोड़ी देर पहले, अगर आप ध्यान से देखोगे सोर्स आईपी क्या आ रहा था 0.0.0. और किस में आ रही है? सेल्फ डिफाइंड ACL में. मतलब कि दिस मीन्स दिस एक्सेस लिस्ट सेल्फ डिफाइंड ACL इज नॉट अप्लाइड टू एनी ऑफ द इंटरफेस. ये किसी इंटरफेस पे अप्लाई नहीं है. इट इज अप्लाइड टू द बॉक्स. It doesn't matter whether the packet is coming from F0/0, 0/1, 1/0 from anywhere. It doesn't matter to him. Either the traffic is coming through F0/0 or through F0/1. This was 12.2 and this was what? 23.1. So for R2, it doesn't matter whether the packet is coming through 12.2 or whether it is coming through 23.1. मुझे फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता डेस्टिनेशन में या तो 12.2 हो या 23.1 हो. फ़र्क मुझे इससे पड़ता है दैट इज़ डेस्टिन्ड टू मी. सो आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू चेक माई डेस्टिनेशन. डेस्टिनेशन शुड बी ऑलवेज व्हाट? एनी. फिर तो आपको दो ACL अलाउ करनी चाहिए थी, 12.1 से 23.1 एंड देन 12.1 से 12.2, क्योंकि दोनों क्या ही हैं? डेस्टिनेशन है. R1 कैन हिट ऑन दिस पोर्ट ऑल्सो और इन दिस पोर्ट ऑल्सो. सो Cisco said it is going to create a confusion. So what they did is they come with the concept of access class. Access class means you are implementing the ACL to the box. To the box means I am not specifying my interfaces. Interface specify नहीं कर रहा. क्या यहाँ पे मैंने कोई interface specify किया था? That I want to apply the ACL for F0/0 or F0/1. That is to the box. और जो भी ACL to the box होती है, we don't need to define the destination. So we are not going to define any kind of destination. So that's why your ACL is not working, because you have specified what? Destination. So to correct that thing, show IP access list. IP access list extended 101, sequence number 1, permit TCP host. Source IP I can define, I cannot define the, but I can define the destination port. Now your access list is correct. Now let's verify the configuration. Okay, connection refuse. But here I can access, because I haven't defined the destination. Because access class means what? To the box. और to the box का मतलब क्या हुआ? We don't need to define the destination. हमेशा याद रखनी चीज़. शायद आपने CCNA में पहले थी, शायद अब सिलेबस चेंज हो चुका है. Access class. Access class means to the box. To the box means I don't need to define the destination.
बट यहाँ पर आप सेट ऑफ प्रोटोकॉल डिफाइन कर सकते
हाँ, प्रोटोकॉल की किसके लिए, बट डेस्टिनेशन पोर्ट नहीं डिफाइन कर सकते क्योंकि वो F0/0 से भी आ सकता है, 0/1, 0 बाय पता नहीं जितने भी इंटरफेसेस हैं, तो आप डेस्टिनेशन डिफाइन नहीं करोगे, प्रोटोकॉल डिफाइन कर सकते हो, सोर्स आईपी डिफाइन कर सकते
हो। बट जो हमारी स्टैंडर्ड एक्सेस लिस्ट होती है उसमें आप सारे प्रोटोकॉल होते हैं डिनाई,
हो सारे प्रोटोकॉल।
स्पेसिफाई नहीं कर सकते ना, आप जैसे कह रहे थे ये स्टैंडर्ड की तरह काम करती है।
हाँ, टेक्निकली समहाउ इट इज स्टैंडर्ड, समहाउ कहा था मैंने, समहाउ मतलब नॉट एग्जैक्ट बट हाँ, क्योंकि हम यहाँ पे डेस्टिनेशन स्पेसिफाई ही नहीं कर रहे, अगर करोगे तो इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क। इस चीज़ को मैं और इस कंसेप्ट से वेरीफाई कर सकता हूँ जो शायद आपको पढ़ के आना चाहिए था राउटिंग से, बट आप नहीं पढ़ के आए। बट स्टिल एनी डाउट टिल नाउ? ब्लॉक फॉर डिले, कितना डिले देना है मेरे को, जनरेट अ लॉग ऑन फेलियर, जनरेट अ लॉग ऑन सक्सेस, या क्वाइट मोड एक्सेस लिस्ट। याद रखना क्वाइट मोड में वो क्या कॉल कर रहा है, एक्सेस क्लास। आपका एग्जाम में पहला सेक्शन होता है वो क्या होता है, ट्रबल शूट सेक्शन, टी शूट सेक्शन। They are going to give you a question that we have implemented the ACL but still it is not working, so you have to verify whether it is a access class or not. If it is a access class, verify whether the destination is specified or not. If the destination is specified, change it, make it what, any. ये आपका ट्रबल शूट होगा। सो इन द फर्स्ट सेक्शन एग्जाम में जो पहला सेक्शन होता है टी शूट सेक्शन 2 घंटे का, इन दैट थिंग यू विल गेट a troubleshoot on layer 3 security also. There they are going to give you that हमने सारी configuration कर दिया है but still it's not working. Then you have to check the access class 100 है, ठीक है, show IP access list, okay. In access class they have defined the destination 12.1.2, remove it, make it what, any. ये आपका ट्रबल शूट होगा ऐसा। यहाँ तक कोई डाउट है तो आप पूछ सकते हो। देन वी विल गो टू समथिंग। अगर एक्सेस क्लास आप नहीं करके आए तो इससे एक रिलेटेड एक प्रैक्टिकल करवा सकता हूँ मैं। R3 इट्स माई फ्रेश राउटर, आई हैव जस्ट असाइन्ड IP एड्रेस, ठीक है। लेट्स कॉन्फ़िगर सम काइंड ऑफ राउटिंग, सो R1 कैन ऑल्सो एक्सेस R3, R3 कैन ऑल्सो एक्सेस R1. आई कैन कॉन्फ़िगर स्टैटिक राउट, आई कैन रन डायनेमिक राउटिंग प्रोटोकॉल, anything, or I can give a default route. My main motto is to make a reachability. आ गई। पिंग कर लेते हैं पहले ताकि आप जनरेट हो जाए। हो गई। एंड हियर ऑल्सो पिंग 12.1.1, ठीक है, परफेक्ट। What I want is, I want to make sure R1 can telnet R3 but not R2. I want to make sure R1 can telnet R3 but not R2. इसके लिए हमारे पास क्या ऑप्शन है, या तो हम इस इंटरफेस पे क्या लगा दे, बट वो गलत डिज़ाइन होगा। Why? Even the traffic is going through the box, it will be matched with this thing, ACL. अगर मैंने ACL लगा दिया F0/0 पे inbound direction में, if I have implemented the ACL on F0/0, this is R4, that permit, नहीं permit क्यों चलेगा, deny लगा दूंगा, deny TCP host 23.1 to host 23.2 EQ23. What if he's initiating the traffic from this one also? Deny TCP host 12.2 to 23.2. The rest of the thing is what? Permit IP NA. R1 wants to access R4. that packet is going this one, and here he has to go through what? Access list, and then it will be forwarded to R4. So that is not a best solution. It is a solution, but not the best. Here we are going to use the concept of access class. What we are going to do is we will go to line VTY. हम जाएंगे line VTY में 0 to 4, and we are going to call the access class. हम जाएंगे line VTY में, and here we are going to use the concept of access class. वही ऑप्शन दे रहा 1 to 199. I can use the concept of standard IP access list standard. Permit host, इसको अलाउ कर दो. बाकी क्या होता है? एक implicit deny. Before allowing it, let's verify. Telnet 23.2 password required but not set. Let's go from this thing. Telnet 23.2 password required but not set. Access class कौन सी है? अरे एक्सेस लिस्ट क्या है? नंबर किस डायरेक्शन में लगाऊं? इनबाउंड टू द बॉक्स आ रहा है तो किस में जाएगा? इन. आई कैन कनेक्शन इज रिफ्यूज्ड. तो यहाँ पे भी मैं क्या यूज कर रहा हूँ? एक्सेस क्लास. नाउ लेट्स ट्राई टू इम्प्लीमेंट दैट सेम कंसेप्ट विद द हेल्प ऑफ एक्सटेंडेड ACL, क्योंकि एक्सेस क्लास मैंने किसी इंटरफेस के साथ बाइंड नहीं की. आई एम अप्लाइंग टू द बॉक्स. permit TCP host to host. Suppose if I am using 23.2, ठीक है? EQ port number 23. And I'm going to say access class 100 in which direction? Inbound. Connection is refused, even though we have allowed it. और अच्छे से देखना हो तो IP access list extended 100, और जो deny IP any है उसके साथ क्या कर दो? Log. Generate a log message. Whenever you are going to drop the packet, generate a log. Destination में कुछ दिखा रहा है? Because access class was the concept that is taken from the standard ACL, and that is to the box. To the box में destination हम check नहीं करते. So to correct this configuration, what I am going to do is, क्या करें? Or we can add one more entry, permit TCP and I'm going to say EQ, and now it should work. Yep. And it should not. No, it's not. Okay. तो आपको आज एक चीज़ क्लियर हो गई जो मैं एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा था आप करके आओगे, बट नो इश्यूज. Access class can work for standard plus extended, but in the case of extended you don't need to define the destination. यहाँ तक आपको कोई भी डाउट है तो आप पूछ सकते हो. We are not go through complete theory. कुछ टर्म्स होते हैं जो आपको पता होनी चाहिए. The first term is asset. This is a theory part that from now onwards we will discuss theory up to 5 o'clock. Asset, अगर आपने इंग्लिश में मैं बात करूँ तो आई एम गोइंग टू से एनीथिंग दैट इज इम्पॉर्टेंट. Asset is anything that is important. तो व्हाट इज द स्कोप ऑफ सिक्योरिटी? मतलब सिक्योरिटी में हम व्हाई शुड वी यूज दिस टर्म? से इफ आई एम गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट फेसबुक, उसके लिए सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट क्या है? उसका डेटा, यूजर नेम, पासवर्ड एंड ऑल दैट थिंग. So for him the most important part is what? Data. If I'm going to talk about bank, the most important part is what? Money. See, what is asset? Anything that is important. For Facebook, asset is what? Data. For bank, asset is what? Money. So asset is something like that is important. So from the networking terms, or I'm going to say from network security term, I'm going to talk about data. For us, data is our asset. We have to secure the data when the data is traveling from one location to another, or whether it is at storage medium. So the term asset means that is important. Okay. So whenever I'm going to talk about asset, from my point of view, I'm talking about data. बिकॉज फॉर अस डेटा इज इम्पॉर्टेंट. अब मैं थोड़ा कहूँगा पैसा, हमारे लिए तो क्या सिक्योर करना हमें? डेटा. याद है ना? डेटा इन मोशन, व्हेन द इंफॉर्मेशन इज मूविंग, सो वी हैव टू सिक्योर इट. सो फॉर अस एसेट इज व्हाट? डेटा. द नेक्स्ट keyword that I want to make sure you are aware about is vulnerability. Vulnerability. Vulnerability is more like, आप सभी ने पढ़ा होगा ये तो,
how much it is growth or anything
वीक पॉइंट. हाँ, एग्जैक्टली. Weak point of a protocol or a network. जैसे प्रोटोकॉल वीक पॉइंट, टेलनेट प्रोटोकॉल का वीक पॉइंट क्या है? प्लेन टेक्स्ट कम्युनिकेशन. क्या? प्लेन टेक्स्ट कम्युनिकेशन. व्हाट इज द वीक पॉइंट ऑफ HTTP? सेम, प्लेन टेक्स्ट. सो हर प्रोटो एस आपने पढ़ा भी होगा, SNMP वर्जन 1, दैट इज ऑल्सो वर्क्स ऑन प्लेन टेक्स्ट. SNMP, SMTP, सॉरी, दैट वर्क्स ऑल्सो ऑन प्लेन टेक्स्ट. SMTP का पोर्ट नंबर कितना है? TCP पोर्ट 25. So this is the weak point of the protocol only. उसमें हमारी गलती नहीं है. That is the weak point of that protocol. But we can use the concept of countermeasure. This is also a term. Countermeasure. क्या इसमें हमारी गलती है? टेलनेट प्लेन टेक्स्ट है? नहीं. HTTP plain text, this is not our fault. This is the behavior of that protocol. But what we can do is we can implement countermeasure. Countermeasure means steps that are taken to remove the vulnerability, or I will say to remove the threat. Steps that are taken to remove the vulnerability or the threat. जैसे कि rather than using telnet, can I use SSH? In both the cases I will get the CLI, right? So that is called countermeasure. आपकी कंपनी में telnet चल रहा था, you find out okay this is a problem, so you are going to take a countermeasure of running what? SSH. That is called countermeasure. The steps that you are taken to remove the vulnerability. And the vulnerability was plain text communication. HTTP की जगह हम क्या यूज कर सकते हैं? HTTP. क्या आपको पता है SHTTP भी आया था? SHTTP. एक लंबी कहानी थी। सबसे पहले HTTP आया था इन 1980s में। Then they faced some problem that it's a plain text communication. Then they did what? एक कंपनी थी नेटस्केप, सुना है नाम नेटस्केप?
Yes sir. इसका सब जीना ना था, that's a navigator.
हाँ, प्लस जो ये है ना
Yes sir.
मोजिला, इन्हीं का ही है, नेटस्केप का ही है। Netscape and IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force, they took an initiation to secure HTTP. So they started their project of SSL and they started their project of secure HTTP. But somehow this project fails, but this project pass. So they make it HTTPS. So technically that is not open standard. Initially it was developed by Netscape. So HTTP was a project, SHTTP was a project, but it has somehow failed. So that time SSL was successful, so they took it from this thing and they make it HTTPS. But yes, there is a term SHTTP. The countermeasure for SNMP version 1, 3, not 2 even, 3. Countermeasure for SMTP, पॉप तो कुछ और करता है, वो तो मेल फैच करता है। आई मैप एंड पॉप इज यूज टू, अरे क्या पढ़ के आते हो, ये यूज,
So वो inbox और वो
ये जीमेल सर्वर है, ये वाईमेल सर्वर है, ये तुम्हारा पीसी है। सपोज दिस योर जीमेल आईडी इज abc@gmail.com and your friend email ID is xyz.ymail.com. If you want to send any kind of mail to your friend, here you are going to run the protocol SMTP, and that mail will be transferred from Gmail to Ymail. Here also you are going to run SMTP. But when this user is going to open ymail.com, here you are going to run POP3 to fetch the mail from Ymail. So SMTP is going to carry from MUA, इसको कहते हैं mail user agent, and MTA, mail transfer agent. So SMTP is going to run between the user who is going to send the mail to the Gmail server, plus when the Gmail is going to look the destination. Okay, he wants to send to Ymail, right? So let me send it to Ymail. There also you are going to run SMTP. और यहाँ पे आपका चलता है POP3 to fetch the mail from Ymail. तो इसका काउंटर मेजर है HTTPS over SMTP. बस रट लिए, SMTP पोर्ट इस पे काम करता है, ये है, इसलिए हम पोर्ट 25 पे नहीं करते. वी आर यूजिंग HTTPS www.gmail.com. yes or no? Because we are running SMTP over HTTPS. So technically I am running SMTP and I am running here HTTPS. So HTTPS is encrypting my SNMP traffic. So these are what? These are the countermeasure steps that are taken to remove the vulnerability. What was vulnerability? Plain text communication. So what is vulnerability? The weak point of a protocol. What is the countermeasure? Steps that are taken to remove the vulnerability or the threat. इसके बाद आता है आपके पास एक टर्म नेटवर्क सिक्योरिटी लाइफ साइकिल. नेटवर्क सिक्योरिटी लाइफ साइकिल. सबसे स्टेप 1, पहली बात हम इसको पढ़ क्यों रहे हैं. सपोज आपकी एक कंपनी में जॉब लग गई, मे बी लेट्स टेक एग्जांपल IBM. यू आर हायर्ड एज अ सिक्योरिटी इंजीनियर. अब क्या करोगे? काम करोगे, बट क्या करोगे काम में?
secure devices policies
वो तो पहले से ही नहीं होंगे. अब बोलेंगे हम फायरवॉल चलाएंगे, फायरवॉल तो वैसे ही नहीं चल रहा होगा तुम्हारे आने से पहले.
sir we always monitor the
उसके लिए तो नॉक टीम बैठी है, नेटवर्क ऑपरेशन सेंटर्स. वो तो वैसे ही नहीं सिक्योर हो रहा होगा. साइकिल, कार देखेंगे, कार, साइकिल का. साइकिल वाले तो हार गए, कौन थे? समाजवादी पार्टी. जैसे हम पढ़ते हैं ना, राउटर ये GRP10, देन वी नेटवर्क नोट और समरी, वो तो चल ही रहा होगा यार. हम वो थोड़ा चलाने जाएंगे, तो उसका पढ़ने का कोई फ़ायदा है? क्या फ़ायदा जब वो तो पहले से ही चल रहा होगा. ऐसा थोड़ा आप आए और बोले चलो जल्दी से ये GRP चला दो, नहीं. So it's a life cycle that you are going to follow. The first step you are going to take is initiation. जैसी आपकी जॉब लगेगी, you are going to start with step 1, initiation. Initiation. Initiation में क्या मतलब होता है? To find out all the vulnerabilities. आपको एक बहुत बड़ी टोपोलॉजी दी जाएगी, आपको प्री कन्फिग दी जाएगी. दे आर गोइंग टू गिव यू ऑल द डायग्राम्स दैट ओके दिस इज अवर नेटवर्क, वी आर रनिंग पोर्ट सिक्योरिटी, वी आर रनिंग AGRP, OSPF, BGP, site to site VPN, remote VPN and all that. They are going to give you all the information. So your step 1 is to find out all the vulnerabilities. Maybe you find out they are running a routing protocol without authentication, so that is also what? A vulnerability. Maybe they are not running the concept of dynamic ARP inspection. That is also a vulnerability. पढ़ा होगा dynamic ARP inspection? अरे हाँ है ना, हाँ. They are not running any kind of DHCP snooping. So these are what? Vulnerabilities. The weak point of the protocol or the network. तो यहाँ पे वो weak point किसका हो गया? Network का. So your step 1 is to find out all the vulnerabilities. Step 2. और स्टेप 1 में आप क्या करोगे? यू आर गोइंग टू डिवाइड दिस वेनेबिलिटी इन 3 कैटेगरीज. आपने वेनेबिलिटी फाइंड की, उनको 3 कैटेगरीज में आप डिवाइड करोगे. लो रिस्क, मीडियम रिस्क, एंड एग्जैक्टली बिल्कुल सही हो, हाई रिस्क. सपोज को बहुत सारी वेनरेबिलिटीज मिल गई, मे बी यू विल गेट 6 वेनरेबिलिटीज. बट पहली शुरुआत किससे करें? सो व्हाट यू आर गोइंग टू डू इज यू आर गोइंग टू कैटेगराइज द वेनरेबिलिटीज. मे बी यू फाइंड आउट रनिंग ए राउटिंग प्रोटोकॉल विदाउट ऑथेंटिकेशन इज ए मीडियम रिस्क. So you are going to categorize it into a medium risk. Routing protocol without authentication. Routing protocol without authentication. Vulnerabilities का ये मतलब नहीं है कि आप नॉर्मल चीज़ें भी बात करो. You can implement physical risk also. Maybe आपने बोल दिया we need to have a security guard. That is also a vulnerability. कि कोई भी कंसोल ले ले. To make sure, that is also a vulnerability. And then low risk. Maybe dynamic ARP inspection is not there, so that is also a vulnerability. Now step 2, what you are going to do is development. Development means to find out all the countermeasure. To find out all the countermeasures. और आप स्टार्ट किससे करोगे? You are going to always start with first high risk, then medium risk, and then low risk. So development means to find out the countermeasure. What is the solution that I can take to remove that vulnerability or threat? ठीक है. Step 3, you are going to perform implementation. You are going to perform implementation. कि आपको काउंटर मेजर तो पता चल गया that I have to run what? A routing protocol with authentication. Here I have to perform what? Dynamic ARP inspection. So in the step 3 you are going to perform those things on the live network. यहाँ पे तो आपने solution find out किया कि solution ये था कि की चेन का साइज कितना होगा. की स्ट्रिंग आपने की चेन बनाई होगी राउटिंग प्रोटोकॉल में. की चेन ABC and key string. So in the implementation you are going to configure on your routers. तो आपने देखा होगा कि कुछ चीज़ें implement करने के बाद मे बी they are going to create some kind of issue. देखा कभी आपने L2 पे कुछ कॉन्फ़िगर किया, it is affecting L3, और L3 you have configured something, it is affecting L2. You have configured some kind of policies from the perspective of L2 but it is affecting L3. जैसे आपने dynamic ARP inspection में you have to use the concept of trust or untrusted, right? So in the step number 4 you are going to perform monitoring कि मैंने जो implementation किया है whether it is affecting my network or not. क्या पता उसकी वजह से कोई और traffic drop हो रहा हो. So in the step number 4 I am going to perform monitoring. So this is my step number 4 to monitor the changes that I have done. ठीक है. So this was our network security life cycle where the first step is to perform initiation to find out all the vulnerabilities in my current network. So I'm going to find out all the vulnerabilities and I'm going to categorize them in the low risk, medium risk and high risk. Then the second step I'm going to perform is to find out all the countermeasures. These are the solutions for these risks. Step number 3 I'm going to implement it. And the step number 4 I'm going to monitor that okay, after implementing those countermeasures maybe I'm facing some kind of issue in my network, so to resolve that I'm going to monitor my network. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Initiation, development, implementation, monitoring. Find out the risk, find out the vulnerabilities. Step number 2, find out all the solutions. We have the solutions, now it's time to implement it. After implementing, do I face any kind of problem in my network? Yes, then I'm going to resolve it. So the task of monitoring is that okay, whether it is affecting our network or not. ठीक है. The next thing we are going to talk about from the management is, अभी हमारा चल रहा है management plane, right? We have discussed about the concept of telnet. Telnet में भी हमने पासवर्ड डिस्कस कर लिया, लॉगिन लोकल डिस्कस कर लिया. We have discussed about iOS login enhancements and then we have discussed about access class. The next step I'm going to talk about is SSH. SSH आपने पढ़ा होगा, सिक्योर शेल. So secure shell. So first S and SH. secure shell. Shell is the word that has been taken from the Unix, and in Unix it means CLI. So technically we will get a secure CLI. Okay, secure shell. So shell is the word that has been taken from the Unix where it means CLI. So technically I will get what? A secure CLI. आप सबने शायद CCNA की बुक में है how to enable SSH. So there are three methods जो आप पढ़ के आए होंगे, एक तो पढ़ाई होगा उसमें से, three method to enable a SSH on router or a switch. Three method to enable a SSH on router or a switch. Step number 1. सबसे पहले मेथड 1 यूज करते हैं जो आप पढ़ के आए हो. आपने ये पढ़ा है, होस्ट नेम सिस्को. देन आपको पढ़ाया गया था क्या? आईपी डोमेन नेम, राइट? cci.com कुछ भी दे दो. एंड देन क्रिप्टो की जनरेट RSA. यही था, यही पढ़ाया गया था. देखो, क्रिप्टो मीन्स आई वांट टू परफॉर्म क्रिप्टोग्राफी. Cryptography means I am going to encrypt or decrypt the packet. Crypto means I am talking about cryptography. Cryptography stands for encryption and decryption. I am going to perform encryption and decryption with the help of this algorithm, that is RSA algorithm. This is the three persons, तीन बंदे थे जिन्होंने एल्गोरिथम लिखी थी. रिवेस्ट, शमीर, एल्डीमैन. स्पेलिंग देख लेना, मुझे याद नहीं है. RSA. So I want to encrypt or decrypt my traffic with this algorithm that is called RSA algorithm. अब क्वेश्चन आता है, why I need to define a host name and a domain name? If I am going to type this keyword crypto key generate RSA, वो मुझे बोलता है क्या डिफाइन करो? डोमेन. होस्ट नेम तो पहले से ही है R3. इज गोइंग टू इन्फॉर्म मी दैट यू हैव टू टाइप व्हाट? ए डोमेन नेम. क्वेश्चन आता है वो ऐसा क्यों कर रहा है? देखो, टू परफॉर्म इंक्रिप्शन एंड डिक्रिप्शन यू नीड ए की. आपको क्या चाहिए? की. अब क्वेश्चन है व्हाट इज द की. देखो, a key is a mathematical algorithm whose task who is going to perform a specific task. A mathematical algorithm who is going to perform a specific task. कीज बहुत टाइप के हो सकता है. ऑथेंटिकेशन की, हैशिंग की टू वेरीफाई द डेटा हैज बीन टेम्पर्ड और नॉट, इंक्रिप्शन की टू इनक्रिप्ट द पैकेट. To make sure the data should not be encrypted. तो मैं बात कर रहा हूँ किसकी की? Encryption की. तो here the role of the key is what? To encrypt or decrypt the packet, not for authentication. जैसे हम keychain यूज नहीं करते to authenticate. So key means what? It's an algorithm who is going to perform a certain task. Here the task is to perform what? Authentication. And here the task is to perform encryption and decryption. So I am going to use this algorithm to encrypt and decrypt the packet. ठीक है, आप ये algorithm तो यूज करो, but you require what? Key. आपको कोई ना कोई वैल्यू चाहिए होगी जिसके थ्रू you are going to do what? You are going to encrypt the packet. For example, this is a room, this is the door. You said I want to secure this door. तो आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा, यू हैव टू परचेज ए लॉक, आपको कोई ना कोई लॉक तो खरीदना पड़ेगा, यस और नो. सेम हेयर, इफ यू वांट टू इनक्रिप्ट और डिक्रिप्ट द पैकेट यू नीड व्हाट, यू नीड ए की, जिसका टास्क क्या होगा, टू इनक्रिप्ट और डिक्रिप्ट द पैकेट. एंड व्हेन यू आर गोइंग टू जनरेट द की, जब भी आप की को जनरेट करोगे यू हैव टू गिव ए नेम टू द की. Whenever you are going to generate the key, you have to give him a name. हर की का एक नाम होता है. To uniquely identify each and every key, you have to give a name. और जो RSA की कीज होती है उनका जो नाम होता है that is a combination of host name plus domain name. Whenever you are going to generate a key with the help of algorithm RSA, it is going to take the name by combining host name plus domain name. अब क्वेश्चन आता है हम कैसे मान ले. देखो IP डोमेन नेम cci.com, होस्ट नेम क्या है आपका और डोमेन नेम क्या है. सो द नेम ऑफ द की शुड बी r3.cci.com, क्योंकि मैंने तो यही लिखा है द नेम ऑफ द RSA की विल बी होस्ट नेम प्लस RSA की नेम. RSA की नेम विल बी होस्ट नेम प्लस डोमेन नेम. तो मैंने डोमेन नेम दे दिया. देन आई एम गोइंग टू से क्रिप्टो की जनरेट RSA. The name for the keys will be host name plus domain name. That's why it was asking you define the domain name first. To generate a key it requires what, a name. हर की को एक यूनिकली आइडेंटिफिकेशन चाहिए होती है. जैसे हम सब हमारे सबके नाम है सेम हेयर, वी हैव टू प्रोवाइड ए यूनिक आइडेंटिफिकेशन टू द की बाय गिविंग इट ए नेम. नाम देने के लिए इट इज़ अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ होस्ट नेम प्लस डोमेन नेम. बट सिंस बाय डिफॉल्ट वी हैव अ होस्ट नेम, बट क्या बाय डिफॉल्ट डोमेन नेम होता है, नहीं. सो दैट्स व्हाई इट वाज टेलिंग यू टू प्रोवाइड a domain name. As soon as I am going to define the domain name and is going to generate the key, is going to tell you the name of the keys will be r3.cci.com. ठीक है, this thing is clear. So this is the first method to generate a key. Method 1 with the combination of host name plus the combination of domain. इस केस में की का क्या नाम होगा, होस्ट नेम सिस्को और डोमेन नेम CCI. So here the name of the key will be cisco.cci.com. Method number 2. हमने अभी तक यही समझा है कि जब भी हम की जनरेट करेंगे वी हैव टू गिव व्हाट, नेम. एंड हाँ, नेम हमें एक नाम देना, और नेम इज अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ होस्ट नेम प्लस. whenever the RSA is going to generate a key it requires what, a name, and the name is a combination of domain plus host. हम ये कर सकते हैं, हम कह सकते हैं क्रिप्टो, वी कैन डिफाइन ए मैनुअली नेम. हम मैनुअली इसको नाम दे देते हैं, रेदर देन रिलाई ऑन डोमेन प्लस होस्ट नेम आई कैन मैनुअली डिफाइन द नेम टू द की. कैसे, क्रिप्टो की जनरेट RSA, and this is how I am going to define the name by using the keyword of label. कोई भी नाम दे दो, मैंने नाम दे दिया CCI. So this is the name of the key. So this is the name of the key. So from now onwards the name of the key will be CCI. Now it's not going to rely on host name plus domain name because here I have manually defined the name of the key. ठीक है, वेरीफाई करें, इस पर तो की जनरेट हो चुकी है. लेट्स गो टू R1. If I'm going to follow the older method, crypto key generate RSA, define the domain name first. Let's remove that concept. Crypto key generate RSA label. Cisco दिया था CCI. CCI. So let's give it CCI. The name for the keys will be what? CCI. So this is the method number 2 to enable the SSH. Method number 3 तो सबसे easy है. By typing the keyword IP, HTTP, secure server. This is the method number 3 from which you can enable the SSH. तो अब आप कहोगे हम कैसे मान लें? देखते हैं इनेबल करके. लेट्स गो टू R2. कुछ नहीं है ना, क्रिप्टो की जनरेट RSA, डोमेन नेम कुछ भी नहीं है डिफाइन. आई एम गोइंग टू से IP, HTTP, सिक्योर सर्वर. कर दिया जनरेट 1024 बिट का क्या RSA की. क्वेश्चन है फिर की का नाम क्या रखा? डोमेन नेम तो था नहीं, कोई लेबल भी नहीं था. सो व्हाट वाज द नेम ऑफ द की? टू फाइंड आउट दैट थिंग you can run a command show crypto key my pub key RSA. My pub key stands for my public key. जब हम VPN करेंगे then I will talk about the concept of public key and the private key because it's a big discussion. 2-3 दिन तो हमारे इसमें ही लग जाएंगे. To give you a brief overview about RSA key is whenever you are going to generate a key through RSA, it is going to generate two keys. One public key and one private key. It's a long discussion to talk about what is public and private key. And this is non-shareable and you cannot see this private key. नाम से ही पता चल रहा है private key. आप इसको नहीं देख सकते. You can only view the public key. तो मैं यहाँ पे यही चेक कर रहा हूँ, show me the public key. जब VPN करेंगे then I will talk about RSA algorithm, how it is going to work and all that thing. So show crypto key my pub key RSA. show crypto key my pub key RSA, right? Key name CCI. यहाँ पे R1 पे मैंने CCI दिया था, right? I use the keyword label. R2 पे देखते हैं कि नाम क्या होगा. Because here I used IP HTTP secure server. Show crypto key my pub key. Show crypto key my pub key RSA. यहाँ पे आपको एक अजीब सा नाम दिखेगा, random सा, self sign and a random number. So whenever every time you are going to generate a key is going to change this number. तो ऐसा नहीं है कोई नाम दिखाई दे डोमेन या होस्ट नेम का कॉम्बिनेशन. You will get a random name. ठीक है. And on R3 I have used the combination of what? Host name plus domain name. So show crypto key my pub key RSA. So it should show me R3 plus cci.com. So these three methods can be used to enable the SSH on router or on the switch. Huh?
What was the meaning of that line that it is not
Non-exportable in the sense you have two options. When you are going to generate a RSA key, and suppose this is the key, some number. So this is the key technically. Okay. Now you have two options. Either you can export this key from out of the box, कि आप राउटर से इसको बाहर भेज सकते हो. That is called exportable key. आप नहीं चाहते इस की को मैं अपने राउटर से बाहर भेजूं. You are going to create non-exportable key. Non-exportable key. Non-exportable. You have to manually define that you want to create a exportable key. यहाँ पे दिखा रहा है आपको non-exportable. You have to manually define crypto key, generate RSA, label Cisco, and I want to create a exportable key because by default it is non-exportable. Security reasons.
So this is we are seeing the public key.
Private key.
This is private key.
You cannot export your private key out of the box.
So where we can see the public.
Public key तो ये रही ना. This is your public key. You cannot see your private key because private key is non-shareable, but you can make it shareable by using the concept of exportable. वो मैं VPN के टाइम में डिस्कस करूँगा because there we have to create a VPN with RSA. That time I'm going to talk about public key and the concept of private key. But if you have any doubt specific with RSA, you can ask right now because RSA can be defined in private and public concept. Huh?
We use
Why we use?
domain name first letter. Domain name.
See, this is the method that is defined by the Cisco that you have to define any kind of name. आपको कोई ना कोई name देना है RSA key को to uniquely identify the RSA key. So Cisco suggests you that you can use host name plus domain name. अब क्वेश्चन आता है कि डोमेन नेम ही क्यों, ACL का नाम क्यों नहीं होगा या कुछ और EIGRP USPF सिर्फ डोमेन नेम ही क्यों. जब हम डिजिटल सर्टिफिकेट बात करेंगे, we have a topic of digital certificate to authenticate the VPN peer. DC, digital certificate. That time I am going to explain why we are using the domain name, and the best practice is to define the domain name with the RSA key. तो तभी मैं आपको इसके बारे में बता पाऊंगा because it is a long discussion. That's why I am not talking that much in SSH because it is completely related to VPN, like encryption, decryption, keys, encryption key, hashing key, that thing. So I'm just giving you overview that these are the three methods through which you can enable the SSH. That's it. But to understand the packet flow, what is going to be happen, how the packet will be secured, that I'm going to talk in the concept of VPN because that is related to VPN. So technically when you are accessing from one device to another through SSH, you are making a VPN actually. So these are the three methods through which you can enable the SSH. Method number 1, by using the combination of host name plus domain name. Method number 2, by using the keyword of label, or method number 3, by using the concept of IP HTTP secure server. Now the next step, keys generate होने के बाद we have to say line VTY login local, right? Because SSH works with the concept of username and password. Why? Because SSH works with username and password. Homework लिख लो. What is your homework? Tomorrow I'm going to ask you different types of SSH versions. SSH के कितने versions है? एक है, दो है, तीन है, चार है, पांच है. And what is the difference between them? So you have to do some kind of research by yourself, and tomorrow we are going to talk about SSH versions and what is the difference in between them. So let's revise. So whatever we have gone through for today, the first thing we are going to talk about is login block for. And then I said I want to block for 50 seconds attempts, 2 attempts within 15 seconds. Whatever the parameter I am to define, it is always in seconds. मैं minutes में कुछ define नहीं करता. Then we talked about the concept of quiet mode. Quiet mode means the router is going to implement a self defense ACL where it is going to block telnet, SSH and HTTP. Then we talked about that yes, we can set a exception by using the concept of access class. In the concept of access class, we are going to do what? We are going to define only the source, not the destination. Then we can generate a login on success and on failure log. Then we talked about login delay 5. So after an unsuccessful username and password, I want to create a pause for the next 5 seconds before prompting a next username and password. Then we talked about line VTY 0 to 4. Here also we talked about the concept of access class. The same concept, we cannot define the destination. इतना ही हुआ टेक्निकली, तो बाकी करेंगे कल.